What if you could talk to the characters in video games and they could actually respond to you? Like quite literally, you talk to them, they actually understand you, react to what you said, and then answer you back face to face. Or better yet, imagine opening a language learning app and your tutor is actually there digitally on the screen having a real conversation with you. Not just their voice, but a real digital avatar talking to you. It sounds like something that is still years away, right? Well, not today, because by the end of this video, you're going to be building one for yourself. Let's get into it. AI agents. We already know how powerful they are. In fact, we've already built a ton of them on this channel right here. You can build them in different ways so they can answer phone calls, book appointments, search databases, send emails, and take real action using tools. But the reality is that to use them or communicate with them, they're trapped inside of a chat box or a little voice widget, which is cool, don't get me wrong, they're still useful, yes, but it's not exactly human and it lacks that one-to-one feeling of speaking to someone. Well, today that all changes. I'm talking about an agent that literally appears on the screen, just like a video game character that can speak back to you live with lip sync, facial movement and natural gestures, all with super fast latency with responses under 2 seconds, using Runway, the sponsor of today's video. In particular, we're going to dive into the Characters API. It's powered by Runway's own GWM1 model. Runway is an AI platform for image, video, audio, and now real-time conversational video. And the best part, creating a character is stupidly simple. You can use one of the many characters they already have, or you give it a single image, choose a voice, define its personality, and just start talking to it. And because it's an agent, you can do everything an agent can typically do, including using tools. And this is where it gets really cool. With client tools, it can literally interact with your page. Like just think about that for a second. Imagine you just joined a company and a digital HR avatar pops up on the screen and it starts telling you exactly where to go and navigate on the screen, all while it's having an active conversation with you. And to me, that's damn exciting. Just think about all of the use cases that you could use that for. And before we dive into the demo, if you want to build alongside me, the link to go ahead and get started is down below in the description. So without further ado, thank you to Runway for sponsoring this video. Let's go ahead and build our first character. Let's go. Okay, so we teleported back to the desk. Let's dive into a demo of Runway Characters. So the first thing that you want to do is go ahead and head over to the first link in the description and you'll land over at this page right here. We need to create an account and don't worry, I've got you guys covered. If you use skills 50 at checkout, you'll even get 50% off of any of the paid plans. And as you can see over at this page, Runway is more than just one thing. They've got an entire creative studio of tons of different cool things that you can go ahead and check out. Today, of course, we're diving into characters. So we're going to go ahead and set up an account so we can play with and create our own characters just like this, which is pretty damn awesome. So go ahead and click try it now, set up your account, and I'll see you inside the dashboard. Now, when you get to the dashboard, the first thing you want to see is on the left, you can see characters. We're going to click that and then we get over to the playground, I like to call it, right? So here we've got a ton of sample characters. And from here, you can actually go ahead and dive into a bit of the fun and you can actually start talking with any of these characters right now or create your own. But I've done something a bit cooler for you guys. I've actually gone ahead and created an entire code repo. So inside the description of this video, you can download the entire code base that I'm going to be showing today. Simply go to the description, go to the GitHub repo, and then simply go ahead and git clone this. So all you need to do is go ahead and copy this and simply git clone this into your computer. And then to get it up and running is fairly straightforward. All you need to do is take the environment file, copy it, remove the .example and change it to .local, and then just pop in the API key, okay? So I'm going to show you where we can get the API key and then I'm going to run through the demo. So inside of that dashboard, what you can actually see at the top is the developer portal. We're going to go ahead and click on that. And then once you're inside of here, you can actually already see some of my custom characters that I'm going to showcase. Literally, I clone myself as well as our support agent inside the demo. So we're first going to go ahead and actually get our key. So we're going to click on manage. And then I want you to go over to your API keys, which is actually the first one. Now I've already got my keys set. Now all you need to do to get your key is click this, go ahead and create a key. Make sure you save it as it won't get shown again. Paste it in here. And then to run the app, all you want to go ahead and do is firstly do pnpm-i to install all the dependencies. And once you've done that, it's simply pnpm dev. Okay. And that will go ahead and kickstart the app on localhost 3000. Right? Now, in this case, I've already created an agent, okay? So my agent is already linked to my account. So I'm going to go through the demo first, and then I'm going to show you how you can connect your own custom agent to the demo. Then you want to head over to localhost 3000, and you should see this demo right here. Now, we created this entire demo to show you what Runway Characters is capable of. And it's pretty damn cool. Now, let's assume firstly that there's no agent. Here we have a dashboard explaining all of the company numbers, right? So we've got our daily revenue, we've got our 30-day revenue, and we have different time periods, as well as the ability to compare periods. Of course, then we've got tickets. So this is actually like support tickets, different teams, and we can go ahead and click the status to go ahead and change those different team tickets. And then we've also got the settings page, okay? So imagine you were new to the organization, had no idea, and you wanted some help. This is where Runway Characters could come in absolutely clutch. So the first thing we're going to do is click over the bottom right, and you can see Nova. So I'm going to click that, and we get our agent pop up, okay? Then I'm going to go ahead and start the call, and this is where the magic happens. So we're going to click on Start Call, and then it's going to request permission. I've already given it permission to go ahead and access my microphone.
Hi, I'm Nova. I can explore the dashboard, explain insights, and help with tickets. Share your screen if you want help diagnosing what you see.
Hi, Nova. What can you help me do? And I'm just going to share my screen right now, so you should be able to see it in just a second. So can you see my screen now?
I see your screen now. For the last 30 days, you had about 123K in revenue, 6 open tickets, and 1 refund.
Perfect. Okay. And can you tell me where can I find the revenue screen itself? Perfect. Thanks for highlighting that. So here I can actually see that we have a dip over at this point right here. What happened on this day?
That dip on July 10th was due to a refund for $2,850.
Okay. And because of that, I just want to know, what is the revenue difference between 90 days and 30 days?
The last 90 days had $349,783 in revenue. The difference between that and the 30-day total is about $227K.
Okay, nice. And compare the 90 days to 7 days, how are we doing?
The last 7 days brought in $31,656, which is about $318K less than the last 90 days.
Okay. And I want to check on the team, the support team especially. How many tickets do they have?
The support team currently has 2 open tickets.
Okay, and where can I see those tickets? How do I get to the ticket screen? Okay, can you actually take me to the ticket screen? Perfect, thank you. And can you show me only the open tickets? Great. In particular, I'm interested about this ticket right here. Can you tell me a little bit more information about it?
This ticket, hashtag 4809, is open with the product team.
Okay, perfect. And actually, that ticket should actually be closed. Can you go ahead and close that for me? Perfect, thanks for that. Now, can you take me to the settings screen? I need to change a few things. Thank you. And can you actually switch it to dark mode? I much prefer dark mode than light mode. That's great. Thank you. That'll be all the help I need today. And I'll call if I need anything else.
You're welcome. Have a great day.
And there we have it, guys. You have a full AI agent avatar that you can go ahead and actually speak to. And the crazy part is I can actually go ahead and swap out this agent with a clone of myself. And it was an easy process to go ahead and do. So all you need to do to go ahead and actually create a custom agent so you can go ahead and put your own agent inside of this demo is simple. First thing you want to do is head over to that dashboard that we were previously at, the developer portal. And once you're over here, we want to go ahead and hit the characters at the top. And at this point, you're not going to have initially any characters. So you can go ahead and click on create a character at the top over here. Now you can either choose a ton of different, base templates like these ones right here, in case, they fit what you're trying to go for, or you can actually go ahead and customize and create your own entirely. So if I was to go ahead and create my own entirely, all I do is drag and drop a photo here, and then I have to go ahead and give it a voice. Now you can actually, again, include your own voice. So I actually had a little clone voice over here, but you can actually go ahead and select from either one of these, which are pretty cool themselves. So we can go ahead and hear for ourselves.
It's great to meet you. I'm looking for...
Hello, it's great to meet you.
Hello, it's great to meet you.
So depending on which one goes ahead and fits your vibe, you can go ahead and select that. And if they're not good enough, you can actually go ahead and clone your own voice or generate a voice by simply putting in the text, and it will go ahead and create the character that you're after. After you're done with that, let's go ahead and just pick a preset for now. And then after we're done with that, you're going to go ahead and actually be able to describe its personality as well as the starting script. So when I started that call, you notice how the agent actually said something to me. So we can actually go ahead and customize this here. And if you can't actually think of anything on the spot, you can feel free to use any of these examples here. Okay. And then of course you actually have a knowledge base as well. So you can actually go ahead and dunk all of the knowledge base documents. For example, this could be your company's procedural documents. It could be how-to guides. It could be whatever you have available. You can simply go ahead and throw it in there. And then your agent has access to those documents. In case it gets answered a question, it can go ahead and check its own knowledge base. But in this case, I've already created this. So I'm going to go ahead and actually use my character right here. And then I'm going to show you how we can actually integrate this. So the first thing that we want to do is take the character ID. So I'm going to go ahead and copy the character ID here. And then I'm going to go ahead and head back over to the code base. Now, after, of course, putting in your API key into your environment local file, I'm not going to show that because that's private. Then once you popped in your API key, you want to go over to the lib folder and then to avatar.ts. And inside of here, I've made things really simple. Okay, Okay, so here we actually have the avatar ID. So I'm going to go ahead and replace that right now with my one that I created. And then we have this Nova image here. Okay, so in this case, I've actually gone ahead and included an image for you guys, which is Nova support. And that's actually the starting image, which is basically just a placeholder image. Okay, and then we have the start script. So remember, you can actually customize these values that we previously set up. So this personality and starting script, you can either set it here, or you can actually go ahead and completely override it by setting it inside the code. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to keep this as is. So we're going to basically have my person say that they're Nova as well. And then the personality. Now the personality is effectively your system prompt. So the better that you can be with the system prompt, the more useful your agent is actually going to be. And this takes a bit of, trial and error, and the documentation actually explains this very, very well. Now we're going to go ahead and go over this in a short sec, but for now, I'm going to go ahead and just continue on with the following. So we're going to go ahead and see how this works with my own agent in the mix. So once you've updated those values, I've actually popped in a picture myself. We're going to hit a refresh, and then we're going to go ahead and see for ourselves if my clone pops up. So we're going to start a call, and you can actually see my image is now here, and we should be speaking to my clone.
Hi, I'm Nova. I can explore the dashboard, explain insights, and help with tickets. Share your screen if you want help diagnosing what you see.
Perfect. Can you actually go ahead and show me where the revenue is? I'm going to share my screen in just a sec. So I'm going to go ahead and share the screen now, so you should be able to see everything that you need to see. Perfect. There you go. I'm new. Sorry. All right. In this case, there we go. Great. I can see the revenue. So I can see a little dip on that graph. Can you explain what date that happened and also why that happened?
The revenue dip happened on July 10th because of a refunded transaction.
Okay. I can see that now. Perfect. All right. Thanks for your help.
You're welcome. Let me know if you need anything else.
And there we have it, guys, my own cloned agent. So that's actually pretty cool. And you guys can see it was actually so quick to get that done. It actually takes a couple of, maybe like less than a minute to actually get the cloning process done. And then you can have your own agent just like that inside. Now let's actually dive into how to implement this. And it's a lot easier than you might think. So the first thing that is pretty good is that they have actually really nice documentation and an entire React SDK to go ahead and get this set up with ease. But you can actually take it a step easier if you want to go ahead and do that. You can go to the embed tab, and then you can go ahead and enable an embed. And just by including this script tag right here and allowing the specified origin that you're going to host it on, you can actually get the entire thing done up and ready, right? So let's go ahead and see here. You can actually also have different options like sharing the screen automatically. And in this case, we can actually also go ahead and do a little preview. So I'm going to go ahead and start the preview right now, and you can actually see how it will begin to appear. So I'm actually going to choose the expanded tab. So this one looks a bit better. And we're going to go ahead and go with, in this case, if I was to click, for example, let's say it was bottom left instead, right? So you can go ahead and customize these however you wish, change the text, change the colors and all that good stuff. And let's go ahead and click on this, ask anything. It will ask to share our screen. We're going to click OK.
Hey, I'm Nova. How can I help you today?
And then it's just that simple, right, guys? So you can actually go ahead and speak with the agent just like that. Now, notice how I said speak, because of course, if you want to have tool calls, that's where we're going to have to use the React SDK to go ahead and get that done. But in a lot of cases, if you just wanted to go ahead and include all of the knowledge base right here, go ahead and set up with an example prompt. Then you can actually go ahead and get everything up and running if it was more of a knowledge bot as opposed to a bot that actually did something, okay? And then, of course, if you want to see what your agent has been doing and who's been talking to you, you can actually check out the conversations over here as well. So if I go ahead and click on this one right here, this was the call with Sunny, and you can see there was actually a bunch of tool calls used, right? So it's not just an agent that's going ahead and replying to me, but you can actually see it was doing a bunch of stuff behind the scenes. So we actually had a few server calls right here, as well as client tools that were called as well. Now remember, the client tools actually allow the agent to interact. You notice how the agent actually clicked and scrolled and actually found and highlighted things on the page. You can actually do all of that with client tools. And then if you ever need to go ahead and actually pull data for the agent to go ahead and give you an informative response, that's when server tools come into play, okay? So if you want to get all of this set up, you can actually go and click on Start Building, and it will take you to the documentation. Now, what I like to do most of the time when I'm building now is pick your favorite coding harness. It could be Codex, Claude Code, Cursor, whatever you're comfortable with. And I like to pretty much give the documentation to my agent and explain what I want to go ahead and build, right? So in this case, firstly, the quick start itself is actually really, really easy to go ahead and get up and running with. They got a little video here, but we've already created our account. We've got our API key. We can add our credits. And again, if you use code skills 50, you'll get 50% off of any paid plan as well, then you can either go ahead and download the React app template, or you can go ahead and download the repo that I've included in the description down below. Okay, once you've done that, you install the packages, set your key, and then run the app. Okay, so it's npm run dev or pnpm dev if you're using pnpm. Right, so the demo one itself will just get a chat going, but of course we want to do something a bit more cool. We want to have tool calls. We want to actually have it be able to do things on our behalf. Okay, so if you go to the core concepts, you can actually get an understanding of how it all works together, including the actual API calls themselves. But what I found most useful here was this section right here. Okay, so the tool calling. So if you actually go down to the overview over here, you can get a breakdown of the difference, right? Like I mentioned before, client tools are the things that happen on the front end, like showing the UI, highlighting, and so forth. And server tools are when you actually go to your backend, like a secure route, and you actually get some information, okay? So diving into client tools first, here they've got a couple of nice examples. And what I would do here is once I've set up the base of the demo, I would simply copy this page, go over to my coding harness. So you could either do it here, or you can go ahead and use the agents window. I'm going to keep it here for now so I can show you what's actually happening in the code. And we can simply go ahead and pop in that URL. And what I like to go ahead and do is simply just talk into the computer. So here I would say, I want to create a couple of client tools and server tools. Read the documentation and help me out with this. Okay. Now notice I mentioned server tools as well. So what I would recommend that you do to get a better chance here is go to the server tools, pop in this one as well. And I would even take the best practices. Okay. So I would always go ahead and grab as much resources as I possibly can. And then I would go back over here, and then I'll go ahead and paste in these two links that I just copied, okay? And this will actually go through the entire setup for you. That's exactly what I did. And before you know it, you've got up and running examples. Now, to run through the actual code itself, it's very, very straightforward. They use Zod here, okay, to make sure that everything is type safe. So the client tools are fairly straightforward, right? With Zod, you can be sure that there's a bit more type safety involved. But the main thing is, you notice how it exports into a single tools, okay? And then when we actually create our session, so a simple line over here, client.realtimesessions.create, we pass in GMW1 avatars, which is actually Runway's own custom model to be really quick and be able to be as responsive as it is. And then we simply have to replace the type with custom. So if you use any of those preset avatars that I showed you in the beginning, you would actually not be putting custom here. But if you create your own, like we have today, you would put custom here, and then the avatar ID goes here, right? So in this case, the avatar ID is the same key as the value, so we don't have a colon here. But if you wanted to directly put it in here, you just avatar ID, colon, and then just paste in the ID value. And then afterwards, the tools are the client tools that we mentioned over here. So this is how you define a client tool or a front-end tool, right? And then it showcases how to actually call them using the React hooks. Okay, so that's your client tools. And then we actually have page actions. Okay, so this is actually where it can click buttons, scroll to sections, highlight elements. You don't actually have to define custom tools to be able to do those three things. Okay, so in this case, all you need to do, import page action tools, and then you simply pass those tools inside. Now, you can actually combine your own tools by using a spread function, okay? So all this is saying is that basically this is already an array. So we're just saying we're going to create a new array. We're going to copy in the page action tools, and we're also going to copy in our client event tools, right? The same actually applies for the server tools when we get to that point, right? And then to actually make sure that we have access to the React hooks up here like this, use client event, it means that we need a provider pattern. So that typically would mean that we wrap our app at some point at the top level. So that's what we can see here. And this is what is actually going to go ahead and provide any child underneath here with the ability to go ahead and call those hooks, okay? So in this case, the avatar call is the wrapper component. So we have the video itself, the control bar for this is basically hanging up, enabling or disabling screen share, and then the page actions as well. You basically go ahead and pop this in so that way it can mount to the page and then it can perform those interactive elements. And of course, when you actually create your own custom tools, it's always worth doing the next step here, which is actually including a section with a target here, okay? So in this case, you can actually see data-avatar-target is what the Runway agent is trained to look at and interact with, okay? So in this case, let's say I wanted to say, where is the revenue button, okay? Just like here, where is the revenue button? Well, in the code, I would basically go ahead and include that inside of that section, a tag, an attribute here called data-avatar-target, and then I would simply say revenue, right? And then in the system prompt, I would simply go ahead and say where I had the personality. So in this case, if we go back to the code, if I go over to the avatar.ts, and then what I like to do inside the system prompt is actually just include those exact tags over here for navigation and so forth, right? You don't actually need to do that, but I find it always makes the agent perform a little bit better. Okay, now of course that's for client tools. Now for server tools, you want to be a bit more secure, so you can actually go ahead and read this entire section. But again, the concept is the same thing. It passes into the tools, and you can go ahead and do a spread operator to combine the client tools, server tools, and page action tools all together. And then you want to go ahead and set up an RPC handler, so that way you can actually have a secure connection between the front end and the back end, so that way you can pull information safely from the back end. Okay, and this is where you would go ahead and have all of your back end tools. But quite honestly, guys, when it comes to setting this up, again, like you don't actually need to be a genius here. You can just click through to the documentation. Like I said before, go ahead, copy the link, and actually just give all of the information to your agent, and your agent can actually solve most of the stuff. I would highly recommend that you be on a better model. So either Cursor Grok 4.5 actually did the trick here. However, I would typically be working with something like Sonnet 5, Fable, Opus, or GPT 5.6 has been amazing for this. Now, I've actually included a bunch of tests as well, so you can actually see how you can go ahead and run unit tests against stuff like this. So you can feel free to check those out if you're interested in that as well. Now, it's worth mentioning that they actually have like pre-built components you can just drop in and use if you don't want to worry about building custom UI and all that good stuff. So if you actually head over to the documentation, you can see an example of this inside of camera and screen sharing. So that's a prime example of where you might not want to build a custom UI flow. So here, for example, if you want to have a webcam support, then what we do is we have an outer component called avatar call. And this is the one responsible for initiating the connection, the call, all of that good stuff. Then we have the avatar video, which is responsible for the actual avatar's video on the screen. The user video, which is responsible for mine. And if I didn't add custom sizing here, you would actually see these be equivalent sizes. So in my example, I've actually overridden this. So if I go ahead and show you the code right now, and as you can see over here, so I've gone ahead and actually overridden some of the styles over here, right? So I've actually gone ahead and put in my own styling to make sure that the actual agent had the majority of the screen. However, if I didn't do that, and I just removed these class name tags, then it would simply go ahead and just share equivalent portions of the screen, okay? Then we've got the control bar, which again is the call bar at the bottom. And then you've got some more interesting parts like the screen sharing. So if you want to go ahead and show the actual screen sharing display as well, all you need to go ahead and do is actually just pop in screen share video, right? And if you want to go ahead and actually tap into when you start sharing and how all of that works, or if you want to start sharing before that session actually connects, for example, in my one, it said, go ahead and share your screen when you're ready, because we might not want to share our screen with someone like an agent, right? Especially if we've got sensitive data on the screen. But if you were happy to share it before, you've got a perfect code example right here. And again, everything can be simply passed over to your agent and used accordingly as you need to build this out. And that's honestly how I would advise that you can build all of these things out with ease. You don't need to dive into things and learn every single library anymore. Your agent can pretty much handle this stuff with pretty much ease. They do actually have an MCP server. However, at the time of the recording, it's not currently available for characters. But if you are using any of the other features of Runway, then feel free to go ahead and set up the MCP server as well. And then of course, if all of that sounded like too much work, you can just use the embedded widget, okay? So I actually really like this table over here where it shows a comparison of the two. So if you don't need, server calls and you don't need all of that stuff, then the widget is absolutely fine, right? If you don't need, for example, clicking through and tapping different buttons and basically having it highlight things on the page, then again, the widget is absolutely fine, and I'd recommend going that way. You'd be set up in literally a couple of minutes. And they even give some good examples. For example, if you have a marketing or a support page and you basically just want to have an interactive agent, then yeah, I would 100% go the widget route. Whereas if you have something which is like the agent that I just showed on the screen right now, that needs to be really involved, kind of, maybe it's a HR agent or maybe it's a video game character, right? So in that case, you can actually speak to the character and it unlocks certain quests and does things for you. That is where you would 100% want to go the React SDK route. And the final thing that I always find useful is that when I'm getting an agent to build out an integration like this with Runway Characters, for example, I would always go to the SDK on GitHub, and I would actually pass this as well to the agent building out the connection between Runway Characters and my app, because it has a deep insight of how everything works at its core. And it has a bunch more, in-depth examples here, as well as certain examples like React components, React hooks, client events, the core SDK itself, as well as a link to the actual documentation. So this, in my opinion, would actually do the majority of the work for you. However, in this case, a lot of libraries nowadays are actually including this. You can actually go ahead and just simply drop this into your AI's context, or what I would, if you don't know how to actually set all of this up, you can just copy this and tell it to save it as a skill, and it would actually go ahead and add this to your coding harness. And as you can see here, it's basically just providing high level insight as to how it can go ahead and use, or what modules are most important for using this SDK. And if you thought this was really cool, but you don't know what you actually want to build with it, I would really recommend you check out the sample app section on the left. They've got a couple of different examples, including Chrome extensions, which I thought was quite cool as well. For example, a virtual try-on, generate video from any image, and so forth. So feel free to check these out as well. And they're pretty cool to go ahead and just give you a bit of insight and ideas. And then a little bonus tip here, if you're using anything like LiveKit agents or ElevenLabs already, for example, I did a video previously on ElevenLab agents, you can actually connect to both of those. So that way you can not only have an agent, for example, from ElevenLabs, but then you get the benefit of a full visual 3D avatar powered by ElevenLabs agents. So that way you can kind of pull the whole thing together. So that way you can speak with a 3D realistic character, but you have the brains of ElevenLabs behind it, or LiveKit agents if you prefer to go that route, which I thought was a really cool thing for Runway to actually implement. So there we have it, guys. You saw what I was able to build with this, a really cool support and HR agent. I want to know next, however, what will you guys actually build with this? Drop a comment down below and let me know. And of course, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, guys, it's your boy Sunny. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
No, no.